Is your husband abusive? Oh.
Sanwalan Dumelang, hello Molweni, Ikamalam Bulwazi, and today we are going to talk about the Palesa incident on the table. Palesa is asked if Tshepo is abusive towards her, and she breaks down and cries. Then she says, I think my reaction speaks volumes. No one has a real response beyond this. She doesn't explain, she doesn't say yes, no, maybe, sort of. And this matter is sort of just put aside Ganjalo for a while. The next day, she meets up with the Pastor X. Pastor X wants to clear this up because obviously these are very serious allegations. Someone's reputation and livelihood and everyone's, safety is in question, especially hers if there is something happening. So they want to get to the bottom of what is being insinuated, especially by her not giving out any further answers. Umakoto was at the table encouraging her, speak friend, tell us what's going on, and she does not. And obviously, since she is quite emotional, people understand that this is a sensitive issue. It's not pressed any further. But you can just imagine what everyone is thinking. This is looking very much like something is happening that she's too emotional to really detail right now at the table. And so one walks away thinking, what is happening in that household? Pastor X sits Omakoto down and she actually gave such a good response. She said, the word abuse has never come up in the conversations between Palesa and myself. That is not where this word or this topic or this concern came from. She then says, when it did come up, what I thought of was financial abuse, since when Tshepo is not happy, he takes back the perks that he gives to Palesa. So he no longer Ubers her around. He no longer gives her his car and his cards, etc., etc. I think that that's a fair enough response. I think that it is honest, and I think that it also does detail exactly what she does and doesn't know. And she makes it clear that their conversations so far have not alluded to or sounded like that. However, she only knows what she knows. Cool. Palesa comes and she gives very questionable responses when she's speaking to Pastor X. This is what she says. If you saw how things unraveled, I did not say anything. The only thing I did was to cry, and that does not mean anything. There was no accusation whatsoever. What I don't like about this is the fact that she is minimizing the impact of her tears and how well timed her non-response was following the comment, my reaction speaks volumes. She knows that the saying my reaction speaks volumes after you just broke out into tears would leave all people thinking, oh my goodness, it must be so intense that she doesn't have the words to articulate it right now. I think that was very unfair of her. And in this moment, I think she finally realizes how heavy of an allegation this is to place against Tshepo without using words, really, because right now we're talking about insinuations and we're talking about things that are implied. Palesa has joined Tshepo in his mind games, in his playing in the blurred lines and working with insinuations, and I didn't say ABC, so that's not necessarily what I meant, or you can't prove, or that's just up to your interpretation, etc., etc. The good thing is that in this moment, she does say, I didn't accuse him of anything. We at least have it on record that she is not saying Tshepo is abusive by any means. And that is so important because this kind of allegation can destroy someone's image, can destroy their livelihood. This can destroy your personal relationships because it's not just about the show and the back and forth that they've been having or the fights that they've been having, because they fight dirty and she's fighting back. And I think that she maybe realizes right now that she went a bit too far and she can't afford to have this turnaround and land in her lap in the form of some sort of, defamation of character suit. That's all I'm going to say. I think that weaponizing tears as women is a very dangerous game because we need one another. We need to be able to believe one another. We need someone to be able to say this and this has happened without anyone saying, I don't know, you guys are lying a lot these days. Or is it just because you're upset? The kind of country we live in here in South Africa has horrible statistics regarding violence, regarding much worse. We don't need to be playing around with things like this. This is not funny, this is not a joke, and it is not anything that we should be coming close to at all. That's all I'm going to say about that. I have seen a pattern where if Palesa is not happy with the way Tshepo is handling their relationship or is treating her, she punishes him. And what I'm going to do is lay out a few scenarios where this has happened and why I'm treating this episode at the table as her intentionally punishing Tshepo rather than her just being caught off guard with the question and simply being emotional, thinking about, maybe previous experiences or being triggered by the word in itself. When she does her private interview, she does allude to the fact that she was actually deep in thoughts or she was triggered and was thinking about a place that she doesn't want to go back to, which is understandable. But what she proceeded to say when she said, my actions speak volumes, is she was implying and she was leading people to arrive at the conclusion that there is more to this story and to these tears than we are seeing, and Tshepo is not who we think he is. That was not fair and that was not right. Tshepo and Palesa recently broke up following a night where Tshepo did not come home until 2 in the morning and she locked him out and he banged the door, and she then said she didn't feel safe to open said door. Then when he did come back in, he was given silent treatment.
Hi,
Hi.
how are you?
Good.
It's good to hear.
In a conversation that happens where Palesa is at Makoto's house, Kululego has gone to fetch Tshepo and they are at least trying to establish where to from here. Tshepo said, I don't think we are made for each other. This is what she says in her private interview. I refuse to believe this is a me problem. And she says to him, I don't think he recognizes a good thing. I didn't come here looking for a project. You are a project. Then she said, I'm done. And she also added in before this started to happen that he is just a boy, basically attacking his masculinity. And the core of the anger that was given in response to Tshepo saying that he doesn't think that they are good for one another, it shows why she has been operating the way that she does. If someone saying that they don't think you two are a fit makes you automatically think that what they are saying is you are not worthy or you are the problem, there's a problem. The problem is the inability to hear what people are saying because of your trauma, because of the rejection or abandonment that you're experiencing in this moment. Saying that he's a project, he's a boy, and he doesn't recognize a good thing, and it's not her job to teach him that she's a good thing. And that's true. It's not your job to teach anyone your worth or teach anyone to recognize that you're a good thing. So why have you been doing that? Because I think the reason why she is angry is because she has been sitting here forcing this thing to work, even though she can see that it's not working, because somehow it not working reflects poorly on her as a wife or as a person or as a woman, and that's not true. I think part of why, even though they never solve anything, they just don't leave, is because she recognizes this marriage's end as a failure on her part. So I can see why she's been reacting the way she's been reacting. But when she said these things, this was very mean. This was punishment. This was almost like saying, how dare you try to break up with me when I have been tolerating so much? And the question is, why did you tolerate all of that? Because if it has made you this angry, it means you shouldn't have tolerated it. It was always too much for you to bear. Why did you? I'm going to rewind from this scene. Tshepo finally enters the apartment. He is looking for a towel. I think he's packing his bags or something. And he says to Palesa, have you seen my towel? She says nothing. When he had walked out onto the patio, it's not called a patio, what's it called? A balcony. He says hi to her. She gives the bare minimum, doesn't really speak to him, walks off. Then she said in her confessional, silent treatment is what you give to people who don't deserve to hear your voice because they don't value it. I'm not here to convince anybody that Tshepo values her voice or is deserving of her voice, but I do have a few questions. Why are you still here? Why are you with someone you believe is not valuing your voice? Because I don't think that this started now. I don't think that this is about 2 a.m. and the knocks and him going back to his home to try to get some rest since he slept in the car. There's a lot more happening here. And for you to still be here, for you to still to not leave, but choose to punish with your silence, since you say he doesn't deserve your voice, means that you don't want the relationship to end, you want it to change. And you can't change it through punishment. You can't force him to change. We don't have control over other people. We only have control over ourselves. There is something that I do want to address. At the Last Supper, Tshepo was convinced by Pastor X to walk back into that dinner / drinks or whatever that was, so that he can stand up for himself and fight for his reputation.
Do you now see why everyone you love has left you in the past?
That was brutal. That was uncalled for. That was taking someone's wounds and throwing them in their face. I don't think that was necessary at all. That was punishment, very clearly. If you don't necessarily think that the tears and saying that the actions speak for themselves is a bit of a gray area for you, that was clear as day. There is an incident that has been an underlying issue for a very long time in this relationship, and that is the car ride call incident. I'm just gonna call it the colleague incident. Tshepo was dishonest. He said that the woman who called was a colleague and she was not. Palesa called him out for it, but not only that, she deleted his number and blocked him. But she didn't leave. Why is that? Why are you blocking and deleting this person's number if it's not to communicate that you no longer want to speak to them, you no longer want to see them, you don't want to hear from them, and maybe you're just protecting your space and your mental sanity, because it's a very drastic move to make in a marriage or a long-term relationship without communicating otherwise, right? So if she's not leaving and she's still in the house and she still wants to be part of the experiment and she still wants to be in this marriage, what is this called if it is not punishment? When the experts came to intervene, she gave Tshepo an ultimatum. You have to leave her or you have to leave me. He doesn't give a response. He doesn't say, I choose you and only you. Me and you are going to fix this, work this out. We're going to ride it till the sun goes down, or whatever people say that's supposed to be cutesy. But they both don't leave. They just stay and they just keep going through the motions. And I don't understand why they do this. Later on, Tshepo's making cocktails and he invites her to come try the cocktail. He's calling it the truth drink or something of that nature. And he then says,
For me, it feels like the accusation was made, it's still there. And I feel very aggrieved by it. Because even now, I'm still not understanding whether you think I did, whether you think I didn't, and if I didn't, I'm not hearing like an apology from you.
obviously, he's doing some blackouts right now, some emotional blackouts, and I'm not going to go into it because you can just go watch his video to see what I'm talking about. She doesn't address it. She can smell it. She knows what he's doing. But her response when she's doing her confessional is what's worrisome.
He needs to understand that each and everything has got a ripple effect. He must be accountable for the things that are going to follow after whatever that he decides to do. And if he doesn't consider me, there are certain things that he's not going to be happy with.
Where's this going? What are we trying to achieve? What are we building towards with these bricks that we've got in our hands right now? Because this is, if a relationship is a plant and the soil is dependent on what you do, what you put in it, what was already there, what you see is missing and you add in, they are putting in toxins right now into the soil, expecting some green grass to just show up because it should know that it should show up. That's not how this works. If you guys want to keep being married, you're going to have to cultivate this relationship. You want to, unless you're okay with just being married for the sake of being married, and being utterly miserable for the next tens of years that you have on this earth if you live that long. I don't understand what we are trying to achieve here. She says to him, when he says that he feels triggered by her leaving because it's a sore spot. They've spoken about this a number of times at this point. What she says is, you don't trigger me, I don't trigger you. Is this a competition? Who can out-trigger the other person? What are we trying to achieve? If this is a battlefield and we are trying to one-up one another, what's the point? Where's this going? What is the big reward that we don't know about? There are questions that I wanted to ask regarding this habit or this pattern of not being treated well and then deciding to fix the relationship or fix the person who's maltreating you through punishment. What is punishment supposed to achieve in your relationship? How are your actions or words rebuilding the trust in the relationship so that it is better off if you decide to stay? If you're not leaving and you're not addressing the dishonesty, because if she cannot prove that he was, cheating, he still was dishonest at the end of the day, and they've never addressed that. So if you're not addressing the dishonesty and how he was not acting in good faith, or how he was not being protective of the relationship and therefore was not being protective of you, what do you want to see happen? If you're not leaving, how should he change? What should he do? What should he show you in order to reassure you that he is serious about the relationship, that he didn't mean to offend you, and that he is putting measures in place to protect you? I've seen people say things like, if you have cheated in the past, you shouldn't be able to have a passcode on your phone, or if you've cheated in the past, your location should always be on, or you should not have single friends or friends of the opposite gender. Whatever the requirements are for you, are you making them known? Have you communicated that? Because I think that the point is not to just cool down from the fight and move on and hope that this never happens again, since it was so tense and no one likes the tension. The point is supposed to be, we communicate. I didn't appreciate when you did ABC. I felt abandoned by you. I felt rejected by you. I felt as though I don't matter. Instead, I would like you to do JHKLMNOP, whatever. And then that person agrees and starts to do those things because they're actually serious about this, or they disagree but have some other suggestions that they can bring to the table after, maybe explaining a bit further. The point of this is changed behavior and understanding. If you're not getting understanding and you're not getting changed behavior, you need to decide whether you're leaving or you're staying. If you leave, I wish you all the best, but I'm not advocating for divorce. I'm not advocating for people just walking out of their relationships when things aren't good or when they aren't happy. But I'm also not advocating for people to stay and choose misery. If you stay, you know who he is, you know how he operates, and you need to accept that this is the kind of person that you're with, and you need to release it. No longer concern yourself with who is he talking to. Maybe he's going to get a waitress's number. Maybe he's not going to come home on time tonight. He's just going to decide jiggy out of nowhere that he has a staff party that he needs to attend instead of coming home to address the fact that he's not happy with you still demanding or expecting him to spend money on you and give you his assets when he no longer considers you guys in a marriage, which is actually the context for why they were fighting in the first place, in order for him to end up not coming home. He said when she called asking for money for ingredients and asking to be Ubered, he was very disturbed. He was shocked. This language is hilarious to me, but he actually said that he was very disturbed and shocked. And you could only be disturbed and shocked by something happening that has been happening if you felt that the person on the other end was not detecting the changes that are happening, or was perhaps coming across as entitled, because maybe there are things that she's also withholding. So he feels like, why do you expect me to continue to give and to continue to show up for you as a husband if you're not showing up for me as a wife? Which is something he does actually speak about. He says that she hasn't been a wife to me, and I haven't felt like a husband to her for a very long time. Do you guys think that punishment can be justified in a relationship? I'd love to hear that. Anyway, bye.